Hello, and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar Bullying and Children in Foster Care, Part 2 Protecting Children from Bullying. This is the second of a two-part Foster Care Institute series on bullying. And if you've not watched webinar number 1, I encourage you to stop now and go back and watch Part 1 first before you go forth with this one. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, the founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I serve as an author, a speaker, a trainer, and consultant for foster care agencies across the world, and I'm also a foster and adoptive parent myself. Our goal during this webinar is to increase the awareness of what bullying is, to identify the different types of bullying and those who bully others, to increase our awareness of what bullying is, to protect children from bullying, and to better understand what might lead some to bullying others, as well as protecting children from bullying. Now, before we go on to see how we can protect, as foster parents, how to protect the children in our homes from bullying, we need to have a brief review or reminder, if you will, on the types of bullying. So let us take a few moments to recap once again, or to review once more, types of bullying that we discussed in great detail in Part 1. As we saw in Part 1 of this two-part session, there are a number of different types of bullying. To recap, there is physical bullying, the most common form of bullying, and the easiest to identify. With physical bullying, bullies use their physical power or strength to often intimidate or to bully their victims. Some examples of physical bullying include kicking and hitting, punching and slapping, shoving others, and of course, other types of physical attacks. Again, physical bullying is the most common form of bullying, and it is indeed the easiest to identify. Verbal bullying is when bullies use words, the power of their words or statements or insults or even name calling to intimidate their victims. Now, perhaps you've heard the common phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. This is a lie. We both know that this is a lie. Names hurt. When I was a child, I rode my bike and I was being silly, being foolish, if you will. I tried to pretend that I was Evel Knievel. If you recall Evel Knievel from the 1970s, I tried to jump everything in sight. And one time I took it too far. I crash landed on my wrist, broke my wrist, and had a cast for some time. That healed. That healed over time. But when I was bullied as a youth, those names stung me for years. I carried that intimidation, that pain, if you will, with me for years. And in fact, to be quite honest with you, those words still sting me in some effect to this day. Verbal bullying is when bullies use those words to intimidate or to hurt their victims. It is more difficult to identify this type of bullying. It is hard to identify when somebody is verbally bullying another. It is quite common, but again, it is hard to identify because many times it is one word over the other. He said versus she said. And many times verbal bullying can simply be denied by the bully. A type of bullying that we have seen increase drastically is that of cyberbullying, and perhaps you have seen that spoken about in the news or in media in your own foster parent training. In fact, we talk about this at great length in the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. This type of bullying, as I noted, has increased dramatically as children inhabit an online world, as children inhabit social media. Please note, I did not use the word live. You and I might live in an online world. You and I might live in a world of social media, yet our children, once again, inhabit this world. There is a big difference. Bullies use phones, computers, online devices, even social media to target their victims. If you're not familiar with cyberbullying, I encourage you to watch the online training webinar here at the Foster Care Institute about keeping foster children safe online, and we discuss in great detail cyberbullying. Cyberbullies often say things that they do not have the courage to say face to face. You see, bullies are able to sit behind a computer screen, sit behind a phone, sit behind an online device of some sort. They do not see their victim face to face, thus, they feel empowered to bully as much as they wish. This technology, this online technology, it makes them feel anonymous. It insulates them from the bullying. They feel detached from the situation because they're not able to see how their words are stinging, how their words are bullying, how their words affect somebody else. Recently, my own family has been bullied or attacked through cyberbullying online from those people who did not know us yet felt the courage to reach out and attack my family because of their differences of opinions. These bullies can get to their victims anytime they wish, often through the safety of their own home. Cyberbullies often work within their own home. Some examples of cyberbullying include posting hurtful images, making online threats, sending hurtful emails or texts, and even stalking others online. Once again, we go into great detail about cyberbullying and how it affects children in foster care as well as foster parents in the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. I encourage you to pick up a book of this most relevant issue facing foster care. Indeed, perhaps you caught the fact that I said that foster parents are also affected by cyberbullying. The rate of birth parents stalking foster parents online has increased as well. And this type of cyberbullying has really brought a great deal of stress and anxiety to today's foster parents as well. Another example of bullying is prejudicial bullying. Prejudicial bullying is bullying based upon the prejudices of race or religion or even sexual orientation. Indeed, we've seen a rise of this once again in our society. Sexual bullying includes when the bullies target their victims through repeated, harmful, and humiliating actions in a sexual fashion. You may ask yourself, what does sexual bullying mean? Well, some examples of sexual bullying include sexual name calling or crude comments, vulgar gestures, uninvited touching, sexual proposition, and pornographic materials. Sexual bullying may also lead to sexting. Sexting, I call it, is today's modern day version of flirting. Sexting was certainly not around when you and I most likely were children, but sexting today is a very relevant form of bullying. Some examples of sexting include a message or post written with sexual language, nude or semi nude photos, videos sent from one to another, photos, videos of sexual acts, live chats with someone on webcam involving sexual acts, screen captured photos or videos recorded from a webcam. These are just some of the examples of sexual bullying and sexting. Once more, I direct you to the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. Relational bullying is when a bully targets his or her victim, a victim that they already know previously, in an attempt to sabotage that person, their victim's social standing with others. most likely in a peer group. Indeed, an example includes keeping others from a peer group. Relational bullying includes spreading rumors or manipulating a situation or breaking the truth, the trust, the confidences with others they already know. Bullying is the deliberate intention to hurt someone. Bullying is repeating actions over and over and over again. Bullying is choosing victims he determines is vulnerable. There are three types of bullying: deliberate, repeated, and power imbalance. Once again, deliberate bullying is the bully's intention to hurt someone deliberately. Repeated bullying is the bully's actions repeated over and over again over time. And the power imbalance bully is one that chooses a victim that he has predetermined is vulnerable. Now that we've seen briefly what bullying is, I point you again once more to the Bullying Part 1 webinar in this session, this series of webinars, to go back and to remind yourself the victims, those who are often victimized as bullies, those who are easily victimized by bullies. Yet, how do we help these victims? How do we help these victims who have been bullied by others? Well, we need to remind the victim. We need to remind the victim that whatever the reason behind them being bullied, it is imperative, it is essential that the child being bullied, the child in your home who has been bullied in a number of ways, it's not their fault. It is in no way their fault. Many times the victims feel that they did something wrong, that it is their fault. The victims need to be reminded by you on a consistent basis, day in and day out, that they do not have to change who they are in order to placate the bully. They do not have to change who they are in order to escape the bully. They do not have to change who they are in order to escape bullying. Whatever the reason might be that a child is being bullied, that victim needs to be reminded they are perfectly fine just the way they are. They need to be reminded that they are wonderful, caring, important, cared for person just the way they are, and there is nothing wrong with them. The victim has done nothing wrong. The victim is great who they are, and there's nothing wrong about who they are as a person. That victim needs to hear those words from you. That victim needs to hear those words from their caseworker, from their therapist, from their counselor, from their teachers. They need to hear those words daily. As we saw in Part 1, children in foster care may be even more susceptible to bullying by their peers. And why is that? Why are children in foster care particularly targeted by bullies? Well, there are several reasons why. Early exposure to trauma, early exposure to anxiety by these children may lead to feelings of low self-esteem, to poor social skills, to being shy around others. These children who have been exposed to trauma, exposed by anxiety, many times these are the children placed in the foster care system. These are the children who do have poor social skills. These are the children who do have feelings of low self-esteem and are shy or uncertain around others. In addition, those children who move from one school to the next through multiple displacement may also be more vulnerable to bullying. Indeed, children in foster care are often bullied while in school, are often bullied through those middle school and, in fact, teen years, high school years. Bullying peaks for children in foster care during those middle school years, and the bullies are often fellow students in their classroom or fellow students in their school. In truth, when some find that a child in their school is a foster kid, so to speak, has that label thrust upon them, those who bully will often bully these children because they are the most vulnerable, and bullies recognize that. But what are some of the signs that a child might be being bullied? What do those signs look like? Well, let's take a few moments to examine what some of the signs might be. Indeed, you might recognize some of these signs with children living in your home, with children being placed in your home, with children that you are caring for in some fashion, whether as a foster parent, a kinship parent, adoptive parent, a CASA, a caseworker. Some of these signs include children not wanting to go to school, a child not wanting to go to school, complaining about not wanting to go to school. And why is that? Because, again, as noted earlier, school is often a place where a child is being bullied at. So they simply do not want to go to school. They are afraid to go to school because that's where the bullying is happening. So they wish to escape the bullying and they do not want to go to school. So they may pretend to be sick. They may pretend to be sick because they don't want to go to school. They find that if they are pretending to be sick, it will give them an excuse not to go to school. Another example, or another sign, if you will, that a child might be being bullied is their items lost. Maybe their school bag, or their books, or their notebook, or their cell phone, or cellular device, whatever it might be. These are lost, or they pretended to have these items stolen. In truth, the bully might be taking these items from their victim, from the child in your care. Many times, when children are being bullied in school, their grades drop, their school performance drops, as they simply cannot focus upon their grades or school performance because of feelings of anxiety due to the bullying that they are experiencing. Other signs include the fact that the child is embarrassed about being bullied. If you ask them if they're being bullied or not, they may simply be too embarrassed or humiliated, if you will, and will not admit to it. They will not admit that they're being bullied. Many times they will not admit to being bullied or confess the fact that they are being bullied because they are afraid of retribution. They are afraid that if they tell you that they're being bullied, the bully will find out and seek revenge and will bully them even more so. Or if they rat out, so to speak, or report the incidents of bullying, they may feel too embarrassed about it. They may feel that they are being a snitch, if you will. For those children who are afraid to walk to and from school, because when they are walking to and from school, that's when they might be bullied, they may take a longer route to school. They may take a longer route coming home from school because they wish to avoid others. They are hoping to avoid the bully. So when a child in foster care, a child in your home, is walking from school back to your home or back to a foster parent's home, and they take a much longer time, and this is happening day after day after day, perhaps they're trying to avoid the bully. Those children who appear anxious, overly anxious, and you do not understand why that might be, this might be a sign that they are being bullied. Children who are afraid of riding a school bus, it may be because they are being bullied on the bus itself. A child who comes up with excuses for you, excuses for not wanting to ride the bus, excuses for not wanting to go to school, excuses for taking a long route home, excuses for items being lost or stolen. Perhaps these are excuses simply to cover up the fact that they are being bullied. Those children who have some type of unexplained injury, a bruise, a black eye, whatever it might be, and they simply cannot explain it in a rational or logical explanation, perhaps they are being bullied. When a child's self esteem seems to decrease in some fashion, it might be a sign that they're being bullied. Those children who have simply do not seem to have any friends, perhaps it is because they are being bullied. Sleep anxiety is another example that a child might be being bullied. They simply have a trouble sleeping at night. Those children who are lying about their grades, lying about school, lying about personal injuries, lying about friends, lying in general may be a sign that they are being bullied. Children who have reoccurring aches and pains in their stomach, their back, their bruises, whatever it might be, these could be signs that they're being bullied. Those children who have self destructive behavior is a sign, perhaps, that they're being bullied. Or change in eating habits is a sign of perhaps being bullied because they're being overwhelmed with their anxiety of being bullied. Their eating habits might change. Those children who practice self harm or threaten suicide may be a sign that they're being bullied. And let me interject here about that. Anytime a child practices self harm or threatens suicide, a child that's in your care, you must immediately document it and report it. Document it and report it to your caseworker, to the agency, through phone calls, through texts, through emails. It must be immediate. Anytime a child practices self harm or threatens suicide, you are stopping what you're doing and you are reporting it. Going on, those children who try to run away might be a sign of bullying, or maybe they're coming home from school with their clothes torn, with their book bags damaged, with their cell phone broken, or any other items damaged. Could be a sign that a bullying is attacking them. Those children who have just fear in general or avoiding social situations may become sad or moody or sink into depression. These could be signs that they are being bullied. And finally, those children who might even begin to bully others, well, this may be a sign that they have been bullied themselves. Indeed, we've looked at many signs that a child might be being bullied. In truth, there are many signs. There are many examples of why a child might be bullied. And it is up to you to look for these signs, to be aware. So you must consistently be on the lookout for some of these signs or any of these signs. These might tell you that the child that you are caring for is a victim of bullying. Now, if you are watching this presentation, this webinar with another, I would encourage you to stop for a moment and ask the person you're with, what can you do? What is it that you can do if you suspect a child that you are caring for, a child that's in your care, is being bullied? Let's take a moment and pause there. So go ahead and pause this webinar and discuss what can you do if you suspect bullying is occurring to a child that you are caring for. And when you are finished with this discussion, go ahead and unpause the video and please continue. Now, what is it that you can do? What can you do if a child is being bullied? A child in foster care in your home, a child in kinship that you're caring for, a child that you've adopted, your own child perhaps, a child that's in your caseload as a caseworker or social worker, a child that you are representing as a CASA. What can you do? Well, to begin with, you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to those signs. And you need to trust your instincts. If you suspect that the child in question is being bullied, trust your gut, so to speak. Trust those instincts, those warning signs, those red flags that are going up, that tinkle in your head or that buzz in your heart that tells you, you know what? I think maybe this child is being bullied. Chances are your instincts are correct. So trust those instincts, those feelings. Pay attention. Look for the warning signs. When you suspect a child is being bullied and your instincts are telling you that, go back and go through those warning signs and check off that list. If you are a parent and you suspect that your child, the child that's placed in your home, is being bullied, it is imperative, essential, necessary that you take this seriously. So, sit down with the child. Listen with a sympathetic and compassionate ear. Simply listen. Don't judge. Don't overreact. Don't underreact. Don't not take this seriously. Don't jump the gun. Don't let your emotions control you. Sit down and listen with a compassionate and sympathetic ear. Ask questions. Ask questions about this child. Ask questions like, is this bullying happening in school? Is it happening on the bus? Is it happening in the lunchroom or cafeteria or the locker room or the bathroom? Determine where it is happening, when it is happening. In no way should you blame the child or give him any reason whatsoever to believe or to cause him to think that he is at fault. Remember, he is the victim here. And you need to remind him and reassure him that he is not at fault. He is not to blame. Talk to him about bullying and how he can report it to you and to others. So if he's in school, talk to him about how he can report it to his teachers, the school council, the administrators. Talk to him about how he can report it to you at any time or the caseworker. Reassure him that you will help him. He is safe in your home. That bullying will not affect him or harm him in your home. Now, keep in mind that cyberbullying happens 24 hours a day, many times in the safety of the child's home. So again, I point you to the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online to see how you can protect a child who's being cyberbullied in your own home. But remind him that the child is safe in your home, that you will help him, that you will support him, and your love is most important to you at this time. And your words of encouragement are also important. Remind him that he is important, that he is loved. Contact your child's school immediately when you suspect it. Your child's teacher immediately when you suspect it. Inform them of the bullying that is happening towards the child in your home. Because there is a great and strong possibility that your school, your teachers, your counselor, the administrators may not know or be aware that the bullying is happening. Request that the school separate the child and the bully at all times, in all places, while at school. Indeed, you have the right to ask to have the child removed from a classroom environment if it is happening inside the classroom. You have the right to ask the child be seated someplace different. If there are more than one lunch in the school, maybe you could ask the child to have a different schedule. But you have the right to request that the school separate the child and the bully at all times, and again at all places while at school. You can pick the child up from school and observe any concerning behavior on the playground or with other children. You can ask school questions. You can ask the schools questions. Questions like this: what are you doing as a teacher, as a school administrator, as a counselor? What are you doing to stop my child from being bullied in the school, in the classroom? Indeed, you can request a meeting with the teacher, the counselors, and the administrators, and I encourage you to do so if you suspect it's happening. And you can ask questions like, how will you prevent my child from being bullied in the hallway when no adults are around? What are teachers doing when bullying is occurring in the classroom? Ask for their answers. Ask how a teacher can ensure that the child is being included in activities and not being excluded. Indeed, if you feel it's appropriate and necessary, you might even wish to go so far as to ask if you can meet with the parents of the bully. because they might be a sympathetic ear. They may not even know what's happening. Now, this is not something you should do all at all times, but if you feel it is necessary, then go ahead and ask for that. Ask the child if he would like to invite a friend over. This is one way to help a child who's being bullied. Encourage them to have some friends over. This is helpful in the healing process. This helps a child to build close, friendly, positive relationships that are outside of school, and indeed may help to decrease incidences of bullying while in school. Teach a child how to respond. When a child is being bullied, teach or role play with them, if you will, on how they might respond. Role play or teach or show them the importance of direct eye contact with the bully and to say no as loud as possible. Show the child that when the child is being bullied, they need to look up that bully in the eye and yell, and I mean yell, no as loud as possible. Tell them it's okay to do this. Tell them they will not be embarrassed. Tell them this is a great way to stop bullying by yelling no for all to hear and practice this with them. For some, humor might be a way to help deflect the situation, the uncomfortable situation, or even bullying. So if they are able to use humor, they may deflect it that way. You might wish to role play or teach the child to walk away from a situation. When they're being bullied, teach them to walk away, to walk towards a teacher or counselor, just to leave the situation instead of retaliation. When a child is being bullied, many times they may feel like retaliating, acting back, striking back, using words as well. Tell your child that it's okay to walk away. Remind the child or encourage a child that if they're being bullied, to stay around adults when possible, to stay around the teachers, the counselors, the coaches when at school when they're being bullied. Remind the victim that they need to report this at all times. If they feel like being bullied, to report it to the teachers. And if they're riding the bus, encourage the victim, the child, to sit in front of the bus or near the front of the school bus. This helps to reduce the bullying. As we noted in part 1 of this two-part series on bullying, so many children are victims of bullying every single day, every single year. So many children do not report bullying because they feel uncomfortable doing so. In fact, there is a strong possibility that the child might be bullying others as well in an attempt of retaliation. Indeed, perhaps you were bullied, or maybe you were even the bully yourself at one point. It is important and essential, once again, to remind the child that they are safe in your home, that they're cared for in their home, that they are protected from your home, that they are not at fault, and never to change who they are to appeal to the bully. Hopefully, these many steps will help you help the child reduce bullying. For much more, check out the Foster Care Institute website. There is my email address, drjohndegarmo@gmail.com, for much more. If you have questions about this webinar or others, I encourage you and ask you to reach out to me via email. If you've not done so already, please follow me at Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo, Foster Care Expert. There are so many resources and videos and articles and a great deal of help for you as a foster parent and as a caseworker. Hey, foster parenting is hard. Foster parenting is hard. And we all need a little bit of daily help every single day as a foster parent, as a caseworker, as a caretaker. Check out my brand new book, The Little Book of Foster Care Wisdom, 365 Days of Inspiration and Encouragement for Foster Care Families. You can find that book and several other books at the Foster Care Institute. I want to thank you once more for being part of this webinar. I want to thank you once more for all that you do for protecting children in crisis. you're truly making a difference for children in need. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo. Thank you again. Cheers.